I used to work part-time for a cruise line during my early 20s, mostly doing security sweeps on the lower decks. The ship I was assigned to, the Coral Meridian, was old, built in the early 80s, with rumors among the crew that we only kept it because it still floated. The layout was weird, too. Unnecessary hallways, dead-end storage rooms, and stairwells that led nowhere. Staff joked that half the ship had been rebuilt so many times they weren't sure which blueprints were real. I got used to the strange noises, pipes clanking, vents groaning, the hum of generators under my feet. What I never got used to was cabin 742. No one stayed in that cabin, ever. We weren't told why, just that if a passenger demanded it, rare, since it was at the far end of a forgotten hallway, we were to upgrade them without argument. The cabin looked clean and normal, like any inside cabin. Except it always felt about 5 degrees colder than any other part of the ship. My encounter started on the second night of a 7-day trip. We were passing through a patch of rough water, and most passengers were already in their rooms. I was doing a routine walkthrough when I heard tapping behind me. Not footsteps. Not luggage rolling. Tapping. Soft. Sharp. Like fingernails. It was coming from the direction of cabin 742. Every instinct told me to radio it in, but protocol said to check noise complaints first. I approached the door and saw the cabin number clearly printed on the wood in gold letters. As I reached for the handle, the tapping stopped. I knocked. Security. Anyone inside? Nothing. I pushed my ear against the door. Silence, until something whispered from inside. Come in. I froze. It wasn't a voice I recognized. It sounded wrong, thin, breathless, like someone speaking inches away from my ear even though I was outside. I opened the door slowly. The room was dark except for the faint light from the hallway. My flashlight hit the bed, the chair, the empty desk. Everything was spotless. But in the far left corner, near the closet, was something new, a wet smear on the carpet, dark and shiny, as though someone had stepped inside after being drenched. The smell hit next, salt water. Strong. Fresh. Like the ocean had spilled directly into that corner. Then the whisper again. Close the door. I stepped back into the hallway and slammed it shut. My hands were shaking as I radioed my supervisor. He arrived 10 minutes later, annoyed, until he sniffed the air because the saltwater smell had seeped under the door into the hallway. He sighed like this was routine. All right. I'll log it. Go back to Deck B. But someone's. Cabin 742 is never occupied. You know that. That's all he said. He didn't let me open the door again. The next morning, housekeeping refused to service that room. They always did. The door remained locked for the rest of the trip. 2 days later, while escorting a passenger who had gotten lost, I walked by that hallway again. The smell was gone. But as we passed cabin 742, the woman asked, "Why is someone inside crying?" I told her no one was inside. She looked directly at the door, pale. But I heard a man whispering for help. When the cruise ended, I asked an older crew member about it. He only gave me the short version. Years ago, a man staying in cabin 742 went missing after telling staff he heard someone calling him to the water. They found wet footprints leading down the hallway to an exterior deck, but never found him. Ever since, whenever the ship passed through rough waters, that cabin would fill with the smell of the ocean and whispers. I don't work cruise security anymore. But sometimes, when I'm on a beach at night, I swear I hear something faint. Tapping. Whispering. Like it wants me to come back. In 2019, my girlfriend and I took a cruise to celebrate our anniversary. It wasn't fancy, but it had all the basics: buffet, pools, cheesy shows. What stood out most was the lonely guy who always sat alone at the far corner of the dining hall. I noticed him on the first night. A tall man, pale, mid-40s maybe. He wore the same black windbreaker every day. His plate was always full of steak, pasta, vegetables, but he never touched any of it. He just sat perfectly still, staring out the window at the open ocean. I whispered to my girlfriend. "He hasn't moved once." She shrugged. "Maybe he's seasick." But on the second night, he sat at the same table. Same posture. Same untouched food. On the third night, the staff whispered about him. I overheard a waitress say, "I cleared his plate today, but the food was ice cold. Like it had been sitting there for hours." I got curious and asked a crew member if they knew his story. The guy lowered his voice. "He's not registered as a passenger. No cabin assigned. We've checked." That made no sense. He was physically there. Eating space. Using silverware. How could he not exist on the manifest? Later that same night, I approached him, not close, maybe 8 feet away, just to see if he reacted. "Hey, sir? Are you okay?" He didn't respond. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe visibly. But as I stepped away, something strange happened. I glanced back through the dining hall's reflection in the glass window and realized his reflection wasn't there. Just an empty chair. My girlfriend thought I was imagining things. Until the fourth night. We were walking the top deck around midnight, enjoying the quiet, when we noticed the man standing alone at the railing, staring straight down into the black waves. This time, he slowly turned toward us. His eyes were dark, not black, but empty. Like there was no light behind them at all. His face was wet even though it wasn't raining. My girlfriend grabbed my arm. "We should go." We backed away, but he stepped forward, not toward us, but toward the middle of the deck. His shoes left wet footprints, despite the ground being completely dry. He walked past us without acknowledging we existed. We followed the footprints for a few seconds until they suddenly stopped, right in the center of the deck. Like he'd vanished in midair. Security brushed us off when we reported it. "No one matches that description," the officer insisted. But on the final night of the cruise, the ship held a farewell dinner. Every table packed, everyone celebrating. Except one. The corner table. Where he sat, ice-cold food in front of him. My girlfriend and I froze. We had watched him disappear the night before. This time, when the waitress walked by him, she dropped a fork and screamed. Because she walked straight into him, straight through him. He wavered like fog, then vanished entirely. The captain made an announcement later, reassuring passengers that a lighting malfunction had caused the commotion. But when we disembarked the next morning, a crew member whispered the truth to us. Years ago, a passenger starved to death on this ship after refusing to eat. Said the sea was calling him. He died looking out the window at night. Some say he still shows up during winter cruises, always at dinner time. I'll never take a cruise again. Open water feels too much like a graveyard. I worked in maintenance on a massive luxury liner called the Carmillion. Our job required walking through the decks passengers never saw, industrial corridors, engine spaces, abandoned crew rooms, storage areas older than the ship itself. Deck 12, the lowest deck, was the worst part. It wasn't listed on the brochures. It wasn't even mentioned in the safety drills. But if you took a certain stairwell near the laundry chutes and went past the authorized personnel-only door, you'd find it. A long hallway of empty crew cabins that hadn't been used in almost 20 years. Lights flickered constantly down there. The ventilation pipes moaned like voices. And every so often, a cold patch of air would sweep over you, even though neither AC nor freezers were connected to that deck. The older maintenance guys warned me. Don't stay down there longer than you need to. And if you see something move, ignore it. I thought they were messing with me. On my third week, I was asked to replace a fuse box on deck 12. The hallway was quiet except for the buzz of old lights. I finished the repair in about 10 minutes. But when I turned to leave, someone whispered behind me, "Wait." I spun around. No one there. The hallway was empty, too empty. The air felt heavier than before. I kept walking, but the feeling didn't go away. It felt like someone was following me. The hair on my arms stood up. I kept checking behind me, but it was always the same sight. A long hallway of identical doors. Halfway to the exit, I finally saw it. A shadow stepped out of one of the cabins. Human-shaped. But wrong. Too long, too thin. Like someone stretched a person vertically until they were almost touching the ceiling. It didn't walk. It slid. Just gliding across the hallway without sound. I froze as it passed under a flickering light, expecting to see a face or body. But the shadow had no features at all. Just darkness, shaped like a person, moving with purpose. I pressed myself against the wall as it passed within 2 feet of me. The temperature dropped instantly, my breath turned white. For a brief moment, the shadow paused directly in front of me. And even though it had no eyes, I felt it staring at me. After a few seconds, it continued down the hallway until it disappeared around the corner. I sprinted out of deck 12 so fast I nearly twisted my ankle on the stairs. When I told my supervisor, he didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss me. He just asked one question. "Did it stop in front of you?" I nodded. He let out a slow breath and said, "Then it knows you now." He explained that years ago, a crew member disappeared on deck 12. They searched the ship but never found him. Some said he went mad and got lost in the air ducts. Others claimed he jumped overboard unseen. But the old crew insisted something else. He never left deck 12. Not fully. And anyone the shadow noticed eventually went missing too. For the remaining months of my contract, I refused to go near that stairwell. I took longer routes, lied about tasks, anything to avoid that deck. On my last day, I passed that hallway by accident while delivering tools. The lights flickered. The air grew cold. And I swear, at the far end of the hallway, something leaned out of one of the old cabins. Watching. Waiting. I quit cruising for good after that.